Hey everyone,
Hi everyone!
this is Nick and Holly from the Misa team, here with our January very first wine club tasting video.
Woo! So for those of you who don't know us, I'm Holly. I am the founder of Misa Natural Wine, and I'm the one that curates the boxes.
And I'm Nick. I am the co-founder of Misa, and I'm the one that does all the other stuff.
So we hope that you enjoy this new style of wine cards or wine information moving into 2021. As you all know, we are a very environmentally focused company, and the amount of paper we were starting to produce with the cards and the amount of potential for them to get crisscrossed on their way to you made it clear that we could find a better solution.
We're also a very small company, so we're hoping this makes it a little bit easier for us kind of on the day-to-day as well.
Yeah, so what you'll find on this page is a private page for whichever club you're in. There'll be information about each of the wines that you'd normally see on the cards on that page, as well as information about most of the wines that are in your club that I've drank. Basically, you can drink it with me, which should be fun. And then I also, for those of you that love taking notes, created a new evaluation tool so you can head on over and get the guide for that. And basically drink along with me, and if you want to evaluate all your wines, you can have a new way to do that with some printouts.
Cool. Well, hopefully everybody enjoys those wines, and let us know what you think.
Alright, so let's talk about some Greek red wines now. So this one is called Innocent Dove from Kostanzis. And they're one of the very first producers in Greece to have gotten the organic certification back in 1991. And their wines, we've had some of their orange ones before, and their red ones are great as well. They really focus on letting the grapes express themselves, as most natural winemakers do. But this one's a really fun one, and I liked it for the winter because it's a blend of what's like a very traditional blend for the region of Merlot and Zinno Mavro. But obviously he made it naturally. So Zinno Mavro normally is like incredibly tannic and intense wine, and Merlot is like medium everything, medium acid, medium body, and it's super fruit forward for the most part. So I really like that mix together. Alright, so the blend is a really interesting and not a typical one that you see, but it's a really nice marriage. So I really like the two of them together for a winter style of wine. And on the palate, you'll see why it's a bit different. So on the nose, it comes off as this really intense, potentially super tannic bomb of a wine, but the body is still quite balanced and really medium. Like it's not something like it's hefty, and you could put it with like some stews, you could put it with some meats, but like it's not a slab in a cab type style wine. Like it doesn't have that much tannin in it. It's still more in like that medium range. So it's nice because I feel like it's kind of like dark and broody and good for the winter, but not too like heavy. You could still have like more than one glass and not feel like, oh my gosh, this wine is so much. Like it's nice, it's balanced. So as far as like Greek red wines go, I would say this is a perfect example of like a lighter, nice, natural expression of one and a really great blend. And I hope you like it as much as we do, because we put it in most of the clubs this month. Alright, so this is a really fun sparkling wine that we have in the club this month. I was really excited when we got hooked up with Savio Suarez so we could bring Duckman to y'all. And Duckman's a really fun one. You may have seen them around where you are. They're really great price performing wines. Out of Portugal, it's actually a father and daughter duo, Luis and Maria Pato, and Pato means duck in Portuguese, thus they became Duckman, and they're super fun and funky, both in their winemaking and in their kind of take on wine. So if you go and look them up on social, they have some hilarious like duck costumes that they wear, and they just have this really great natural wine brand. It's what you would expect from like a fun, funky natural wine brand. So they're out in the Barita area of Portugal, and they use mostly Portuguese grapes. So this one, I never say it correctly. I'm pretty sure it's called Fernão Pires, and that's 100%, and they make it in the pet nat style. So they take it and they create it in the pet nat style, and then they let it sit on its lees for a year. So it's got some really nice lees contact, which makes it a little bit like a creamy brioche, more like champagne style. Like think champagne style, but then also like pet nat funky. That's the perfect example of what this is, even with a little bit of like slight skin contact and orange wine attached to it. So it's just like this really cool representation of several different areas of natural winemaking that I loved, and I wanted to get it into every club, except for obviously the red, because it's not red. But it's such a perfect example of so many styles of natural wine. So looking at it, I obviously poured it a minute ago, so let's just take a quick look at the bubbles. For being a pet nat, they're honestly pretty fine and small, and I think that's from them doing the riddling themselves and letting it sit for that year, so they got quite concentrated. I don't have the correct kind of flute. If I did have a flute, I would probably drink this in a flute, because it's actually a little bit more refined than I was expecting it to be. I thought it was going to be more like a big bubble pet nat style, but because it does have that extra age on it, it could do with the flute, because it could do with having the bubbles rise through more of the wine to create more complexity and nice aromatics for you. Luckily, it's still nice in my Zalto. So on the nose, I can actually, if you do use a flute, maybe sniff it from up here, but because I have mine so far down here, I can get quite a bit off of it. So a lot of like stone fruit and tropical fruit. Banana is a big one that I get off of it, but also things like pineapple and mango. Like there's a lot of tropical notes coming off of this, as well as like zest, but the zest would be more, I would say, like it almost goes in like a lime direction than like a lemon direction, or like apples even, like you would expect from a crisper wine. It's more, actually let's try it first and then I'll speak to that. Yeah, so it has this great roundness to it. So you know, it's not like a prosecco or something where it's like crisp, acidic, and quick. Like this lingers. It lingers because it does have that year of lees contact after. Like for how much this costs, like it's a really complex and wonderful wine. That's why like I had to steal it all for the club, because what this actually represents and what they're doing is just like such a great representation of the natural wine world. Even if you don't like sparkling wine, I would guess you might still really enjoy this wine, because maybe just let it sit for a little while, because in like a glass like this, it'll get less effervescent over time. But like the body and the complexity in it is astounding for what this bottle is, what it's priced at. Yeah, and as far as pairings go, you could actually do a lot more with this than like a normal sparkling wine, because it does have that body. So you could do any of the normal stuff, like it'd be fine with oysters, it'd be good with like different types of cheeses. But you could even really get into like the heftier fish zone, because it does have a tiny bit of skin contact. Like you could have fish with maybe a slight sauce on it, or like a lighter salmon. Sushi would also work. Ooh, sushi with mango in it. That would be like my top choice. Like if I could pick anything to drink with this, that's what I would want. Like a roll that has like a little bit of mango and maybe even some like cream cheese in it, and then like tuna or something. So I hope you enjoy it. I was so excited when I found out we could get this wine for the January club, and I also wanted it to represent like a cheers to 2021. We made it. This is part of the new year, and we hope that you really enjoy this wine and this new style of learning about them. All right, so talking about orange wines and Georgian wines, this is the first time we've had Georgian wines in the club or on our site, and we're really excited to have started with Ronnie. She has some really great selections out of Georgia, and we couldn't start without having an orange wine in the club. So this is the one that we picked. It's more of a entry, if you've had a lot of Georgian orange wine, this is more of like an entry level one as far as tannin goes, because Georgian orange wines can be some of the biggest tannin bombs in the world, so best to like work up to those. This one is what we would consider like a great expression of it for the average orange wine drinker, or even for someone that doesn't know that they like orange wine yet, maybe a red wine drinker that hasn't tried orange wine yet. So a bit about these wines. So it is a blend of Raxatelli and Chinuri, and the producer is called Chubini, and I think that's how you say it. He only makes 2 wines, one red and one orange. So we have the orange in the club, and he only works in Curvy, which, as you may have heard before, is the amphoras, giant, well, actually, you can see it on the little label. They're these giant amphoras that are buried in the ground. So normally they'll be in the ground. And the story goes from Ronnie that he actually sleeps next to his Curvies while the wines are macerating, because he wants to make sure that he's there when the fermentation is over. So he really cares and makes a very tiny production. So we're really excited to have these small scale wines in the club for y'all. So let's talk about Georgian orange wine. Wine originally actually comes from Georgia, and if you know about the history of orange wine, basically there was no white wine as we know it when wine first started. Orange wine is basically white wine made like red wine. So when they first started making wine, they didn't think, oh, let's press these ones and not have any skin contact, and then press these red ones and have them have skin contact. They just did the same thing with both. So it's the oldest expression of how to make wine with this type of grape. So it is definitely orange, quite extracted. I think it was on the skins for 6 months, or 6-month maceration, and it was in the Curvy for 9 months. So this is a wine that could really potentially use some decanting or allow it some time before you drink it. Like, it's delicious, but it's totally different from the Vino Naranja or some of these other orange wines in that it needs some time before you'll actually get a lot out of it, because it does have tannin on it, and it really needs to breathe. So my first recommendation is to do that. You maybe don't even need to decant it, depending on if you're having like a glass or more. If you're going to drink the whole bottle, maybe decant it. Otherwise, put it in your glass and let it sit for a while. And then it's cool, like, start by smelling it and you'll get some of like the savory notes, but as it starts to warm up and develop, you'll start to see things like beeswax or apricots and like stone fruit, and those things take a little bit of time to develop on this wine. You get a lot more lemon, or at least I am, on the palate than I was on the nose. And it does have quite bright acidity, more than you would expect from the way that it smells. So it could go with a lot of things. Like, it's definitely tannic compared to phenolic bitterness, if you're in the Orange Wine Club and you were watching those videos, because I'm feeling the tannin in the sides of my mouth versus the phenolic bitterness in the middle of my tongue. So that means you could put it with stuff that is a bit more like fatty. So if you are having like a fattier fish, like a hefty fattier fish, or like a lighter meat but that's fatty, you could put it with this. It would honestly be great with a cheese board, like of fatty cheeses, like cheddars or something like that. That could be really nice with it. It really could go with anything. I think we had it for, what did we have it for? We had it for Halloween, and Nick, I believe, made pork chops, which were quite fatty with like nice pieces on the edge, and like that really worked well with the tannin that you're getting with this deeper orange wine. So I hope that this is a nice, easy introduction for you to orange Georgian wines.